Okay, good morning. This is Rabbi Shlomo Furst, substituting temporarily for Rabbi Reuven Levitt. We're learning Gemora here at Yeshiva Tsama Nafshi, located in Yerushalyim, HaKodesh. Daf Mem, Dalet on the base in the Gemora and Bava Kama. Who'd like to begin? Let's just please review briefly what you did yesterday, and then we'll continue a little bit further. Go ahead. Who'd like to begin?
We learned the Mishnah, I'm sure Aisha, I'm sure Itamim. Then we started the Gemora. Read the Gemora.
What do you want me to do?
Let's start. Where do you want to start from?
I think we just read the Mishnah.
Yeah, we started the Gemora.
Let's review the Mishnah. Let's review the Mishnah just briefly. Go ahead.
It says that the shore of a woman, orphans, guardian of orphans, the wild shore, consecrated shore, and the shore of a convert that has no heirs are all liable to death. And then Rabbi Yehuda says,
right, if they gore somebody to death, right?
Says that there's three of them that he doesn't agree. That is the wild shore, the consecrated shore, and the shore of a convert. They're exempt because they have no owners. That's
Patrim min hamisa. Those three oxen, they're patrim min hamisa. Lefi she'elehem ba'alim. They have no owners. Okay. So those were the three cases. The shore on Midbar, there's no owner there because it's a wild shore, shore hektish. That's something which was concentrated. The shore was concentrated, so no one is really the true bailim of the ox. And also a ger that mace. It's also in terms became hefker, became ownerless through the death of his owner, which was a ger who had no inheritance. Right? Since there's no owners, there's no death sentence. Very good. Okay.
So I asked, wait a second, Hektish is an owner.
Yeah.
The conclusion we came to was that it's probably frequently true that somebody dedicates an animal to Hektish,
Right.
and Hektish doesn't know about it yet.
Okay.
So therefore, it's like it has no owner,
Mm-hmm.
because they can't be responsible for it if they don't know it's been consecrated.
Right.
Even if they know it's consecrated, Hektish is a different category. We've had this with other places in the Gemora.
I disagree. They have responsibility.
There are places in the Gemara, other places where it says
if a cow is
ish below Hektish. It has
if
to.
the shore is
special
muad,
volume is not in the same
if
category.
the shore is muad, the Hektish has a responsibility to guard it. And if it goes and kills somebody, Hektish is responsible.
Right. No, it's true. We're not suggesting that the what we call the gizbor, the gabbai, the steward of hektish has no responsibility. We're not suggesting that, right? But what's meant when there's no bailing, when there's no legal ownership, meaning the hektish is a similar modern example would be, like, say, a corporation. Let's say a corporation owns a shore, right? And that corporate shore went and gored somebody, right? So is that going to be considered to be, at least according to the second opinion, the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, will that be considered to be chayav yisur or not? So we have a corporate shore, right? So now a corporation consists of shareholders. Now, let's say it's a corporation, not a sole ownership business, right? They're shareholders. The shareholders simply have a right to collect profits, right? The advantage of a corporation is they're not legal responsible. If anything that the corporation should do, which would be illegal or damaging, the shareholders don't have any legal responsibility or liability, right?
I think you could sue a corporation.
You could sue the corporation,
Well, the
but it's limited.
pays, but
Right.
not
The shareholder. Let's say a corporation caused a massive oil spill. Right. They were searching for oil off the coast of Santa Monica, caused a tremendous oil spill from the tip of California all the way up to San Francisco. The whole California coast is now covered with oil. massive damage, deaths of animals.
Well, that actually happened in the Gulf about 5 years ago, BP.
Okay.
And they were sued, and they had to spend more than $1 billion.
Oh, but none of the shareholders was held personally responsible. None of the shareholders, I think, lost any money from their pockets. Right? They may have not gotten profits for a good long time, right? Because the company's now perhaps bankrupt or whatever. But the shareholders are not personally responsible, right? Likewise, right? Likewise, similarly, in a certain respect, HaKodesh likewise. There are people who are responsible. Obviously, just because you have a shur shel HaKodesh doesn't mean that the gabbai can sit back and watch the shur run wild and do damage all over the place. But he himself is not going to be held personally responsible because it's not legally considered his. He's a steward. He's a manager of the, just like the director of the corporation, the executive director, the managers, all the other employees of the corporation. They're paid to do their jobs, right?
But conversely, if we agree that the corporation pays,
Mm-hmm.
then if we're going to carry the analogy forward, we would say that HaKodesh pays.
Oh, so that depends now. Is it considered the corporation or HaKodesh considered to be an ish? Since the Torah says ish, right? V'lo HaKodesh, it has to be a person. It has to be an embodiment of a human being, right? If it's an embodiment of a human being, then the shur can be killed because there's such a person, a human being, which is directly legally has legal ownership over the shur. But if there's no human being that's legally owning the shur, then you have no ability.
Does it say ish or does it say baal?
It says ish, right? Yes, I think we must have been here. We must have had it.
You went through a case where the HaKodesh could not pay kofar.
Yeah, it's also mission. It's also mission.
HaKodesh could not pay kofar. HaKodesh could not pay
It says
kofar.
Habayalim Yikne.
Yeah. It also said use the lashon bailim, but bailim meaning ish. We learn out, right? We learn out the exemption of HaKodesh based on the fact that it says ish, right? Right. Right. We'd have to. I'd spend time to. I don't want to take up time now to find it, but it's clearly mentioned. So in that similar way, I mean, we're not trying to say that anyone can shirk their responsibility. There is responsibility here, right? But in terms of the legal ownership, which is necessary to create that bond between the animal and its owner, when the HaKodesh is involved, there's no such bond. And therefore, according to Rabbi Yehuda at least, right, there's thank you. There's no ability to kill the shur in that case. Okay, let's go to the Gemora now. Who'd like to read the Gemora? Roy, like to read the Gemora a bit?
Tana Rabbanan, Rabbi taught in Brisa. Sure. Shiva. 7 times Yeshua was mentioned. Lahavi, Shor, Isha. Included the Torah's decreed death of the ox of a woman. Shor, Yeshiva, the ox of minor orphans, including that. Shor, Hapitrophus, the ox of minor orphans, that these orphans were in charge of the guardian, and previously that weren't under any guardianship. That's 2 separate orphans. And sure, a midbar, an ox of the wild. And sure, a HaKodesh, ox that's HaKodesh, consecrated. Sure, a Gersh and Shemes, Ba'ang La Yerushalyim, an ox of a convert who died and has no heirs. Rabbi Yehuda Omer said, sure, Yoshi, the ox of a wild, the consecrated ox, and the ox of a converted died and has no heirs. Potter, Min, Misa, they're all exempt from the penalty of death. The fee, She'ain Lahem, Ba'alim, because they don't have an owner.
There's no
No owners.
And in that respect, according to Rabbi Yehuda, they're all equal, right? Just as a shor midbar, a wild ox, has no owner. Likewise, the ger who used to own it but now is nifter and has left it to no one, the ox is also ownerless. And likewise, the shor of hekdesh is also likewise ownerless. So since there's no owner, right? You can't have any testimony of the owner in Beis Din, right? There's no testimony against the owner in Beis Din, therefore you can't have any ability to kill the ox.
And then we say owners, what do we mean? We mean a single person. No, we don't mean a single person, right, because you pointed out that the orphans, a few orphans may have owned one ox.
Right.
Oh, so the orphan, right? You could also have shutfim. Let's say you have partners. Let's say
Yeah.
Chaimi and Shlomi buy a shur together, and they're partners, right? So that would there's no exclusion there. Apparently they'd be chayiv. At least now question who is which one, both together, however it works. But that's Rabbi Yehuda who excludes these three: a shur shel midbar, a shur shel yisamim, and a shur shel a shur of a ger. And a shur of hekdesh, he excludes those, so he doesn't exclude a shur of partners.
So by an owner then we mean somebody who has paid for an ox, or the ox was given to him as a present, but
As opposed to what other
to
situation?
a guardian, someone who's looking after the ox.
Well, the guardian would be included. The guardian is, now the question is, since the guardian is the only legal authority here, because the children which are below the age aren't of age for responsibility.
I'm sorry, I mean, I'm not talking about a guardian for the children. I'm talking about just an ordinary ox. If it's under guardianship, then the guardian...
It's a different case, it's not being discussed yet.
Beg your pardon?
It's a different case, it's not being discussed yet.
Yeah.
You know, because who, you know,
Yeah, let's-
what these showrim, what the four
Yeah,
showrim
let's say
have to
you
watch.
left your
Because if they're
ox
watching the
with a
four
cowboy, you
showrim,
left
they
with a
have
cowboy. And so you left your axe with, you don't know what a cowboy is? Oh,
Sure, cowboys, what's going to do with an ox?
Well,
Cowboys.
He knows cowboys, he's from the
In
outback.
case you're talking about the guardian. He doesn't own the ox, he's just taking care of it for the day.
Oh, like a shepherd.
Well, that's for sheep and goats.
It's like a shepherd.
A bushman.
Okay, so it's an ox shepherd.
Yeah, good. Okay.
It's a cowboy. That's what we call it, cowboy.
Okay,
They usually ride horses and have dogs running around after
that's
them.
right. They shoot people.
Yeah, and they smoke Marlboro.
Okay, let's continue the Gemora. So Rabbi Yehuda, as quoted, this is basically been a quote of the Mishnah, to tell you the truth. Up till now, we just quoted the Mishnah.
Yeah, the only thing is the first sentence
Yeah.
is just the concept of it calling it seven.
Right.
Because if you counted out all the different psukim where it says Hashor mace, there are 7 times the word shor appears, so that's why they're saying that there's got to be 7 categories, and that's listing what the 7 categories are.
Very good, very good.
And, you know, the Ish was the first category, but the other 6 are listed here.
True, very good. Okay, so let's continue the Gemora a bit. Okay, in the Gemora, Amara Huna. Yeah, go ahead.
Me?
Yeah, sure.
Amar Rav Huna, Potter Haya Rabbi Yehuda,
Patahaya, that's right.
Rabbi Yehuda, Afilu Nagach, Ulevisov, HaKodesh, Hikdash.
That's a verb form, right? Yeah. It should be also, right?
Well, Rabbi Yehuda would exempt an ox from death even if it gored and its owner subsequently consecrated it.
Right.
Or Nagach, or the Vasov, Hipkir. If it gored and its owner subsequently declared it ownerless. Mamay, from where do I know this? So that would be they wouldn't be liable to be killed, those oxen.
Right, so Rav Huna is basically saying, giving us a chiddush, an insight, right, a novel way of looking at Rabbi Yehuda's halacha, right, that even if it was, did the goring and did the killing, and sometime between, we'll have to see what's the sofa exactly means, but sometime in between the goring and its possibility of being brought to Beis Din, I would just imagine for the time being, and it was then, before it was actually convicted, the owner sanctified it, or let's say it did the goring and killed, and in the end, before it was convicted, it was declared ownerless, right? Then, right, that would also be a case of a patur. Oh, in Mimai, it says from Mimai, meaning the question of the Gemora is from where do we know from?
Oh, Mimai, sorry. Mimai, from where do we know this?
Yeah.
Since the Mishnah states two separate cases, Shor Hamidbar, Shor Hager
Shemeis, George Ager Shemeis, Ve'en Lo Yorshin,
without a convert heirs, so two cases of wild ox and the ox used to belong to a convert who died and had no heirs. Shor Hager Shemeis May Nahu. Now the ox of a convert who died without heirs, what is it? What's the it? The ox. What is the ox?
It's trying to say that these two oxen are the same thing. These two cases are the same thing.
I mean, it's going to boil down to the same situation, right? I mean, because why? Because the two cases we're contrasting, you have a Shosha Midbar. It's a wild ox. It grew up in the wild and it's been running around for years, and now it finally discovered itself in civilization, and it's been doing all the goring it likes. So now it comes to civilization and it gores, right? And also you have this this ox which used to belong to a ger, who's now after 120 years in this world in Olam Ha'emes, and there's no one to inherit it, so it's now ownerless. So both cases are cases where there's no biling, right? Sure, she'ain bo biling. So why do we have to seemingly repeat these two cases, right? The fact that it's repeated must be there for some importance, significance. What's that?
Kevin, the aim, law, Yerushalyim, Hava, Lo, Shor, Hefka. So since the convert has no heirs, it's simply an ownerless ox.
Good.
Ainu Shor, Midbar, Ainu Shor, Hager, Shemeis, Ainu Yerushin.
Yorushin.
Yoshin.
Okay, stop here.
Hence the case of the ox of the wild is the same as the case of the ox of the convert who died and has no heirs. Both are exempt of onerous oxen. And the law applies to one, certainly applies to the other. So why then did the Mishnah mention each case separately?
Good. Okay, that's understood. Meaning how we understand. I'm a little bit in doubt what the Gemora's intention is when it asks the question of mine.
But the Gemora is trying to come up with the fact that all these three cases that Rabbi Yehuda talking about seem to all come out to be the same situation.
Ain't no biling. There's no biling.
There were no biling, hefker, whatever you want to call it, or hekdesh, almost in the same category. If there are no biling, the same thing. So why do I have to list it as three separate cases? One case would be good enough to me.
Right. So it's a question.
What's the reason why I'm writing it as three cases instead of writing it only as one case?
Right. We understand
That's what we're on in the inside, but what you're asking me, is the outside case. The outside is where does Rav Huna get the idea that you can extend Rabbi Yehuda to say that in these cases where there was a change during the trial, that he sanctified it or that he declared it hefker, in that case also you're exempt.
Right.
Where did Rav Huna get that idea from? Mimai. Where did Rav Huna get that from? Okay. Now we're discussing the redundancy with the eventual goal, I think, of showing where Rav Huna got it from.
Okay, so that's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about more or less what you're saying, that the Gemora is asking a question. Now, how are we supposed to know what the goal of the question is? Right? Mimai. Right? This is going on the statement of Rav Huna. Right? Or is this going on the statement, or an analysis of the Mishnah itself? Right? That's what I'm dealing with here. Mimai Rav Huna, right? Umimai, right, on the Mishnah. So as they learn that Mimai is so the way it's explained over here, that this statement Mimai is Rav Huna himself speaking. Right? Rav is speaking as following: Amar Rav Huna, Pater Haya Rabbi Yehuda, Afilu Nagak Lasof Hikdish, Nagak Lasof Hefker. Mimai, from where, right, does Rabbi Yehuda know that he would be the shore Pater, even if the goring, he had owners, but at the time of, let's say, the conviction, we'll see that specifically about that, there was no owners. Remind, from where did he get that? From, Midiktani, from the fact that he learned two, right? The fact that Rabbi Yehuda learned these two cases, sure, Midvar, sure, Shiger, Shemei, so Yorshin. So Rav Huna has a right, to say this, based on the fact that Rabbi Yehuda is apparently saying a redundancy. That redundancy in Rabbi Yehuda is allowing Rabbi Huna to extrapolate and suggest that Rabbi Yehuda will say he's pater even in the case where the goring took place when there were owners, but nevertheless later on the ownership was dissolved or disappeared. So, if that's the case, it's, I'm not sure, I'm not convinced 100% yet, but it seems as if it's a bit circular. The reasoning is a bit circular, the logic is a little bit circular. Meaning, we want to extrapolate on Rabbi Yehuda, right? How do we know that we have a right to extrapolate beyond what Rabbi Yehuda himself said? Because Rabbi Yehuda himself said something which was redundant. So, as we're all familiar, if the Torah itself says an extra word or something which was not necessary to say and what said it anyway. So we know many of the drushes of Chazal are based on the fact that there's a apparent redundancy in the Torah, and that redundancy is there for the ability of Chazal to add on to, or to explain deeper, more elaborately, what's written in the Torah, right?
The redundancy works in both cases. It works for the Mishnah as well as for Yehuda. You would see a redundancy. Because either case, whether he says it's pata, whether it's chayev, they all seem like the three cases seem similar. Because they're all cases of no volume.
Right.
So all three cases involved with that, either from the Mishnah, where the Mishnah holds them chayev, or Rav Yehuda, who holds them pater.
Good.
So and then the difference, of course, Rav Yehuda's being different is saying even from the outset he's pater.
So,
But now to try to explain the Mishnah from the non-outset, Rav Yehuda is trying to come up with a case as to even from the non-outset why it's possible for them even to happen. Because you wouldn't even think that once something's hektish, there's no volume, so therefore it shouldn't exist. Shor midbar. How could shor midbar ever be a case of what you call it, of being volume?
Right.
That's the one that really sticks out over the other one. That's like hefka diyam gil.
Right.
The other two have cases where times could change because they were owned by somebody who was a Jew at one time.
right.
You know, it could have been hektish. You know, made hektish at a later date, or the ger could have died at a later date, but there was a point where an ox was owned by a Jew that did something.
Right.
Unlike Hefker, unlike the midbar, which never was owned by a Jew.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to be clear about this. So Reuven is extrapolating that the oxen are a potter, whether they're before their state, before when they were, before or after the state of change.
Right.
Doesn't matter what state they were in, owned or ownerless, owned or wild. They're potter missing.
But even though they had Bailim originally, right? At the
When
time
it
of
was
the,
killed.
at the time of the crime, at the time of the killing. Nevertheless, now at some later date, the status has changed to be ownerless, right? So now they're judged as an ownership shore. They're judged as an ownership shore. But I'm thinking a little bit more deeply. If the fact that one of these two cases is redundant, either the shore midbar or the shore sheger shemeis, one of these two, according to Rav Huna, one of these two cases is redundant, correct? Now let's apply what Rav Huna is telling us about that to the Chachamim. The Chachamim said because we have 7 times mentioned shore in the Torah, right? We have 7 cases of patur, right? According to Rav Huna, one of those 7 cases is redundant.
It doesn't say patur. It doesn't say that they're patur cases.
Does it say what?
Sure, sure.
What did he say?
It doesn't say patur for the 7 cases.
So what do we learn out?
Only Rav Yehuda is giving the 3 cases of patur.
Yeah, so right, so they all chai, they all chai.
He's giving 7 cases of chayiv.
7 cases,
And the question,
7 cases
7
of
chayiv.
So
And that's 7 chayiv. How could you consider shura midbar to be one of those 7 cases of chayiv?
yeah.
That's
Well,
that's a question in itself. How can shura midbar there was no Bible ever before, after, middle?
right.
How is that now chayiv?
Well, I mean, you have a chiyuv to kill the shore.
But if you have the chiyuv to kill the shore, then why would Rav Yehuda let these other people off the hook at any point? If you have the chiyuv to kill, you have the chiyuv to kill the shore, you have the chiyuv to kill the shore. It shouldn't matter if you have the chiyuv to kill the shore. Shore should kill a person. We can't say that this person was. I mean, you do have a case where there was not. We have had cases like the shore, the stadium, which killed somebody, which was trained to kill. That shore does not get skilled. And there is shore did kill somebody. So we do have cases of the shore actually killing somebody and then not being saved.
Right. Yeah.
So we do have cases of that. And that was also the below Kavana situation.
Right.
So below Kavana, we have cases of not getting skilled. So what's special about a shore midbar, which seems to really be a hefker object, that it should be
Right. Yeah, I agree with you.
It seems to say it, Misha says it is.
Right,
I don't see how,
Right, exactly. But for the same matter, even though it's true that they're learning here, but
I mean, that's making the Hiddush. Making the Hiddush is the 7 times. I guess I have to do it because I have to come up with seven items, and there's 6 times. And I had to make a 7th item. This is one of those 7 items.
right. And so, what are we adding by a ger
It's a
shemeis? What are we adding by even for the same token for the case of
But the Gershom Mace, we can have the case where the shore killed while the Ger was alive.
Yeah. Well,
And the mace is after that.
The Chachamim certainly would kill him. I mean,
Right.
that's it's an even better case. I mean,
Right.
they did it afterwards. So in terms of that, right? In terms of that,
The only way it works out of it is the time lapse fact.
Yeah.
What happened that changed the time lapse fact? That means later on he's off the hook.
right.
Is there going to be any difference between a ger who dies and leaves no heirs, and a Jew who dies and leaves no heirs?
Yeah, because the heirs would have to kill.
Because every Jew has some heir to him. There's some. So you have to go back whatever generations, but you'll find somebody. Whereas a ger who comes completely, he has no lineage at all. So therefore, since he has no lineages, in theory, unless he has sons and daughters, he won't have any heirs. So his property will become
There
owners.
must be Jewish.
No, you go back to the father, and you go to the father's brothers, you go back to the grandfather.
Somebody
You
dies
always
on
go
the
find
road,
somebody.
you don't know who he is, and who killed him, who the other,
Always go, there's always somebody.
But anyway, all right, okay, that's just an exception. All right, thank you.
So that's Rav Huna's chiddush, his elaboration and insight into the halacha of Rabbi Yehuda. In these 2 cases, right, there's going to be a patur as well. Even though at the time of the goring, the killing, they were owners. But now at the later date, there is no owners. Still, there's going to be. So at this point, there's no owners. There's going to be also patur. There'll be a patur. Okay, let's continue a bit more. So it says again. So just Rav Huna Pater Hayi Rabbi Yehuda. Afilu Nagak L'Sov Hikdish. Nagak, the second case, Nagak L'Sov Hikdir. He did a goring, and then in the end he was sanctified. Nagak he gored, and in the end he was made ownerless. From where does Rav Huna have the right to understand that this is the pshat in Rabbi Yehuda, the Kiddush and the elaboration of Rabbi Yehuda's opinion? Because it says Mektani Tarti, since Rabbi Yehuda taught us 2 cases. Shor mid, Rabbi Shor Ger Shemeis, Sheni Yoshim. Right, Shor Ger Shemeis, mind you. So that's what the Gemora says. Shor Ger Shemeis, mind you. Okay, so let's learn now further. Shor Hager Shemeis, mind you. Go ahead, you'd like to pick up?
I'll go ahead. The Kevon to aim low Yorshim.
So first let's explain the question. What is the question of the Gemora?
In the case of a convert that died and has no heirs, what is the chiddush? What is the significance of this particular one? Since that there was no heirs, shore hefker is hefker. So the shore that is owned by a ger who died and had no heirs is the same exact case as the shore that's ownless in the first place. So therefore, it's redundant.
Oh, very good. That's what it means. Shore hefker. I knew shore midbar. If the ger shemeis ve'eno yarshim, that's a shore which is hefker. If it's a shur shehefka, hainu shur shemid. That's equivalent to a shur midbar.
But it's not redundant if we say that there's a difference between when the ox was owned to when it was declared ownerless or when it was no heir. If we say that if the ox that had an owner was chayiv,
Good.
if someone says that, and then the owner declares it hefker or ownerless, then it's not chayiv. So there's a difference there. But the ox that was not owned in the first place, it's got the same status all the way through. So there is a difference.
We do realize there is a difference. A shur shemidbar which never had an owner, right? As compared to a shur shager which was an owner, but the owner now doesn't exist, right? So if you look into the history of it, there is a difference. But if you look into the situation right now, right now they're both in a legal status of ownerlessness. Okay. Good. Very good.
Ella lav ha kamashmalan. Rather, is it not here that it informs us de afilu nagach ula vasof hikdish. Even, is it not that it informs us that even in the case where he gored and then after he gored he was declared to be sanctified to hektish, or negach, he gored ula vasof, and afterwards hifkir, he was declared ownerless. Is it not to tell us that in those two cases the law still applies? Is it not that the redundancy in the Mishnah of mentioning the two things, the ownerless one and the one that belonged to a ger who died with no heirs, isn't that in fact to teach us that if the action occurs subsequently, it's also the same law? Shema mina. Yes, indeed, it does.
That's what it teaches us, right? And we'll bring a proof. Tanya nami hachi.
Tanya nami hachi, and we learn in the Brisa also. Yaser al Cain. Moreover, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, said Rabbi Yehuda, Afilu Nagach Ula Vasof Hikdish. Even if he gored and then afterwards he was sanctified. This is a brisa that's saying something similar.
And this is Rabbi Yehuda himself saying this. It's not just Rav Huna. Up until now, it's been Rav Huna been saying this in the name of Rabbi Yehuda. Now we have a brisa which says the exact same thing, but Rabbi Yehuda himself saying it.
Nagach ula v'sof hivkir.
Hikdish. You're going further. Okay, you're good.
Or it gored and afterwards it was sanctified. It was made declared ownerless. Pater. He's pater, according to Rabbi Yehuda in this brisa. Shene Amar, as it says, v'hu ad biv alav v'hemis. Let's see. It's stated, its owners had been warned. Oh, huad is warned.
Meaning testified against him, based him, and were warned and based him.
The the warners, and it killed. So it's since it says in the pasuk the owners were warned, we have to have owners,
Right.
according to Rabbi Yehuda. Ad shetehei misa v'ha'amada b'din shavin ke'echad, unless the death and the standing in judgment are alike. until Shetahei, that it is Misa, the death, the Hamada, and the standing,
Bidin,
justice, Shavin Ke'echad, or like one. I don't get that.
Okay, so it's like this. Tanya Nami Hocha, we learn in Brisa likewise. Yeser al Kain, even more than this. Amar Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda said even more than this. He said, Afilu Nagav L'sof Hikdish, Nagav L'sof Hifkir, Potter. Even in a case where it gored, in the end the owner made it into Hektish, sanctified it. Even in a case where the shur gored and killed, in the end it became Hefker through some ways or means, the shur will be Potter for Misa. Shenemar, it says, Hu B'Bala B'Amis. The owner has been informed through testimony, and right, there'll be a goring which resulted in Misa. So what does that mean? Ad shitei Misa v'amad b'din shavim ke'echad. The Gemora din until you have the goring and the testimony in the Beis Din equal, meaning the shur has to be of equal status. When it gored, it was owned by somebody, and was testified in Beis Din, it was owned by somebody. Ke'echad. The Gemora Din, no beginning, but you don't need that the Gemora Din has to be in the same status. V'hashur yiskol Gemora Din hu. You have a shur which is going to have sentenced upon itself stoning. That's Gemora Din hu. So what does it mean then, rather? Ella Ema, it must mean to tell you, Ad Shitehei Amisa V'Amad B'Din V'Gemar Din Shavim Ke'echad. Rather, you must have it all in equal status. The goring which resulted in death has to be of one status. And Yamad B'Din, the warning which took place in the Beis Din, has to be of the same status. And the Gemar Din, the conviction in Beis Din, has to be of the same status. So it's only going to be chayiv unless you have the same status of the shur throughout the three stages. Basically, you have three stages. You have the stage where it did the crime, this goring, and resulted in death. You have the Yamad B'Din, the testimony, and you have to have the final conviction. Those are three stages. The shur has to remain in the same status of having an owner throughout the whole three stages in order that it should finally be killed. Okay. I, Rabbi Levitt, will try to go over this again tomorrow, make it a little bit more clear. You have to see Rashi's, and let's just tomorrow.